All right, y'all, we're going to review for your midterm because you will be taking it someday this week. All right, so we reviewed a little bit Friday. Hopefully you did that. If you didn't do that, you need to get caught up on that also. And everything's on Google Classroom for that. So today's worksheet, I didn't get this to you guys ahead of time. So you're really just going to kind of follow along. You can do notes in your notebook. You can do notes in your notebook. You should do notes in your notebook because you are going to need to turn in the work. Okay. So yes, I understand you don't have this packet there. That doesn't matter. You can still follow along and do the problems. Just make sure you number the problems as you see them here because you will turn in your work. Okay. All right. So rewrite this expression in simplest form. So remember, you got to get rid of parentheses. So in front of parentheses is a -5. So you are distributing that. So leave this 10K. -5 times -6K is positive 30K. -5 times positive 4 is -20. Now, do you have any more like terms? It looks like I do. They're on the same side, so I do what it says. 10K plus 30K is 40K. And then leave your -20. You cannot subtract these. They are not like terms, so you are done. This is your answer. Remember, as you're doing the notes on your scrap paper to turn in pictures, you don't have to write like the whole entire thing down. So put like number 1, write the question, and then the work that I'm doing with you. Okay? All right, another rewrite in simplest form just to refresh us. So there's a 1 there. I'm going to make sure I have that. I got parentheses again, so I'm going to distribute the -3. So keep my -1D. -3 times 7D is positive 21D. -3 times positive 1 is -3. And again, I have like terms right here. There's no equal sign, so they're on the same side. So you do what it says. -1 plus 21 is 20D minus 3. You cannot go any further because they are not like terms. So that is your answer. Remember, make sure you wrote down number 2. You wrote down the question. If you need to pause it, then pause it, and then do the problem with me as you write it down. Simplify the expression. Write your answer using integers or improper fractions. Okay, so write down number 3 on your paper. Write down the problem. Don't write down all the words. Okay. All right, so you should know the deal. We need to get rid of parentheses, so we need to distribute. So 1/2 times -24m. A positive times a negative is a negative. Half of 24 is 12m. 1/2 times -16. Again, a positive times a negative is a negative. Half of 16 is 8. And leave that -5m on the end. Can I simplify it further? Do I have more like terms? -12 minus 5. So -12 minus 5 is -17m. And just put the -8. Remember, you can't subtract those. They're not like terms. So that is it. You are done. -17m minus 8 is your answer. So I kind of numbered these a little bit weird. So yes, this is number 1 again. That's fine. And then write down the inequality that you see right here. All right, remember, in order to graph an inequality, like always think, we got to solve it first, okay? You always have to think, do you have parentheses that you can get rid of? Do you have like terms that you can get rid of? Do you have variables on both sides? And then just solve for your variable. I have no parentheses, no like terms on the right, no variables on both sides, so I'm ready to solve for x. Well, I can't touch that until I get rid of -15, so add 15. So -2x is greater than -9 plus 15 is what, 6? To finish getting x by itself, I need to get rid of that -2, so I need to divide by -2. Y'all, when I divide both sides of an inequality by a negative number, my sign gets flipped around. Remember, if you multiply or divide by a negative, your inequality sign flips around. 6 divided by -2 is -3. So my inequality states that x is less than -3. Go ahead and take a second to make yourself a number line, so you can pause this video if you need to make yourself a number line. I have mine made here. So what kind of circle goes, remember, open or a closed circle? Open circles when you have a greater than or less than. Closed circles greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So I want a open circle for -3. What values are less than -3? That means it goes this way. So a little refresher on how to write it in interval notation. What's the furthest left it goes? If I keep going this way on the negative side, remember that's negative infinity. That gets a parenthesis, and then it goes all the way to -3, which gets a parenthesis because it's an open circle. Remember, a parenthesis is when you have an open circle. If you have a closed circle, that is when you use a bracket. Negative infinity always gets parentheses on one side, and then positive infinity gets parentheses on that side also. Okay. All right, so let's look at question number 2. I know we've already done a number 2, so just put number 2 and write the inequality. I'll be able to tell. Make sure you're nice and neat with your work, which you guys know how to do by now. All right, you can't touch -7x until you get rid of +4, so -4. So -7x is less than or equal to 28. In order to get x by itself, I need to divide by -7. So x, remember I divided by a negative, flip my sign if you multiply or divide by a negative. So I flip my sign around. Now it says x is greater than or equal to -4. Okay, you can pause this to make yourself a number line. I already have mine. I'm going to put a filled circle on number 4, and the values that are greater than go this way. All right, so remember, when you're writing it in interval notation, the farthest left it goes is -4. That's my first number, and it's a filled-in circle, so it gets a bracket. And then it keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. Uh-oh, it keeps going. What's the farthest right it can go? Well, that would be positive infinity, and that gets a parenthesis. So that would be it in interval notation. All right, now we're going to move on to some slope stuff. Make sure we remember all of this. What is the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points? Write your answer in simplest form. Remember, in order to find slope, we use the formula y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And in order to figure out your y2, your y1, your x2, your x1, remember, I'm going to label. This is your x1, y1. That's your x2, y2. So this is x1, y1 because it's your first x, your first y. This is x2, y2 because it's your second x, your second y. So 5 minus 6 divided by 9 minus 10. From here, you truly could put that in the calculator. 5 minus 6 is -1. 9 minus 10 is -1. Negative divided by negative would be +1. Another way you could actually do this as well, and I'm going to stop sharing this screen so I can share another screen for you. Another way to actually be able to do this would be to use your graphing calculator. So let me just share this screen, and hopefully you can see this. So in my graphing calculator, if I put in the point, what was it, 10.6? See if I see that point 10.6. Okay, there we go. I see it there. And then the point was 9.5. Oops. I don't know what I did. Parenthesis. There we go. Did I mess anything up there? I did. Let me just, there we go. I don't know what the heck happened there. All right, so there are my 2 points. So as long as your graphing calculator is counting by ones, and you can tell that mine is counting by ones, it goes on the x, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the y, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as long as I'm counting by ones everywhere, remember, you can do your rise over run. I rise up 1, right one. And I can tell it's positive because it's increasing. Okay, so whether you do it by hand or you do it on your graphing calculator, that is your choice. Let's get back to the smartboard file. You can see the questions I'm doing there. All right, so let's move on. All right, write the equation for the linear functions that were given here. So remember, whenever it tells you to write an equation, if it doesn't specify, that's always your slope-intercept. Remember that, slope-intercept. I'm going to run off. Remember, the most important things is M, which is your slope, and B, which is your y-intercept. Okay, so if we look at this graph right here, the first one for A, it looks to me like that increases. So the slope has to be a positive number. I'm going to pick 2 points. Remember, it has to be 2 points. I see a point here and a point here. So I go rise up 1, 2, positive 2 for my rise, and I run right 1, 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses right here at -2. So my equation would be y equals 1x minus 2. Or I could just put y equals x minus 2. You could go ahead and put this into your graphing calculator and check to see if it matches up. Remember, if you were to do that, and I'm going to show you, if I were to go to my graphing calculator and I were to put in that equation that I had, so the equation that I had is y equals x minus 2. All right, and then do not forget that you can also, as long as it's in slope-intercept form, you could go here to your wheel, to your table, and I can see the points. And so these were the exact points that I was able to see on the picture that I had. Okay, so always another way to do it. All right, let's go back here to, all right, so this second one, if you look at that, that looks like it decreases. Okay, and I see it crosses right here at +8, so your y-axis is +8. So because it decreases, that means that your slope is negative, right? I'm actually going to use this other point right here because I'm having a hard time. It doesn't touch there. It doesn't look like it perfectly touches there. It might perfectly touch here, but I'm not 100% because it is a little blurry. Yeah, I think it does touch here. But I know 100% it touches here, so I'm going to actually use that. I'm going to go from this point to this point. So I rise down. I have to go down 8, so that would be -8. And I run, is that right? Yes, that's right. So +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so -8 divided by +6. If I reduce that fraction, it would be negative, what is it? 2 goes into each one, so -4/3. So that's my slope. So my equation is y equals -4/3x plus 8. Again, I'm going to go check myself. I was doubting this point right here. I was doubting this 3, 4 point. So let's go check ourselves on our calculator. Oops. So present my screen so you can see it. Sure. All right, so I had y equals -4 divided by 3, go over to put that x, and that was +8. So if I go ahead and look at it, and especially look at the table, all right, so I can tell that. So you see how that point was a decimal? That one's still a decimal. This one right here is the one I used. This one right here, I think, is the one I was doubting. Is it going? It's not going to tell me. It looks like that. You know what I'm going to type in here? What does it look like? 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. I'm going to cross that off and put a 3. And it actually does match up. So I was correct on my screen, but still I used this one that I was 100% correct about. So it's smarter to do that. All right, let me turn my light on. On to the next question. So let's go. Let me present my screen here. All right, so next we got question number, I think it was numbered number 3, but just make sure you're showing your work. All right, which equation represents the vertical line passing through the 0.57? Well, if I pass through the 0.57, I am going to check. First of all, a vertical line is this way. And think about that. A vertical line, when it's like that, has a 0 slope. And a 0 slope is when y equals a number. So I know that x is out of here, x is out of here. It should just be these y's. Well, if I look at this point, what's the y value of that point? The y value is 7. So it's got to be that one. Y'all, if you didn't remember any of that, that's okay. Okay, because you can totally 1,000% check yourself on the calculator here. So I'm going to pull up my calculator and I'm going to show you how you can fully check yourself on your calculator. All right, so the point you want to go through is 5, 7, right? So I'm going to put that, whoa, what did I do? I'm going to put that point in, and then I'm going to try, what was the first? X equals 5 was the first one. So then I'm going to put in x equals 5. Okay, and does it go through the 0.57? Let's make sure I had. It does go through the 0.57, but is it a vertical line? It is not, so that's why that wouldn't work. So just be cautious as to reading the actual words there that it says. The next one is y equals 5. Now this is a vertical line, but does it go through my green point right here? It doesn't, so that's not going to work. The next one is x equals 7. So always read key important parts there. Clearly that is not a vertical line, and it certainly doesn't touch my point. And the very last one is y equals 7. Which you can, oops. Y equals 7, which you can see is a vertical line, and it touches that green point there at 5, 7. Okay, so if you remember nothing about that, be smart. A calculator does a lot for you. Let it do it. Okay. All right. Which graph has a line with a greater slope than 2, 5? A greater slope than 2, 5. Well, if you look at this equation, I want a greater slope than this one. What is the slope of that equation? The slope is 2 over 1. So I want to look at which one has a bigger slope. And I'm having a hard time telling. Let me just pull it up on the side here. It gets a little blurry when I take pictures and put it on here. So let me just pull it up. All right, let me see what I got here. All right, so it looks like it's counting by ones here. So if I go here and here, rise up 1, 2, 3, 4, and run right 1, 2. Well, isn't that slope the same thing? So that slope is not greater. I want a greater slope than this one. Here, touches there, and it touches there. So I go rise up 1, 2, 3, and run right 1. Well, so far that's bigger. 3 is bigger than 2. All right, well, I'm going to try this one. Try C. Remember, you're always finding 2 points. Looks like I have another point here, another point here. It doesn't matter what 2 points you pick. Just do your rise over run. So I'm going up 1, positive 1, and right 1, 2 is positive 2. Well, a half certainly is not greater than 2. This one, here's a point, and maybe here's a point. So I'm going to start the middle point. I'm going to go up 1 and left, which is negative 1, 2, 3. Well, that certainly is not greater than 2. So B is my option. All right, let's review some inequalities quickly. What does the shaded region represent? That represents the area where your solutions are, where your solutions lie. Remember, solutions are answers. What does a dashed line mean? It means points on line are not included. Oops. And then what does a solid line mean? This means points on line are included. Okay. All right, when I want to graph this inequality, y'all, go right to your calculator. So I am going to stop presenting this screen and I'm going to present my calculator screen. And I am going to, I'll make it bigger in 1 sec. And y'all, it doesn't matter. Technically, I don't need to put it in slope intercept unless I want points. All right, so where do I get? All right, so you guys should see remember you can use this little thing down here to get your inequality signs. All right, so now I'm going to make that bigger. All right, so it's a dashed line. It crosses at what? At -3, a dashed line, and it shades below. So let me go back to my other screen. And technically, we should have been able to figure that out. It doesn't look like any of those match up. Did I type that in right? Let me see. Oh, Lord. Hopefully y'all caught that. I put a subtraction sign. All right, so since I put a subtraction sign, if you have a positive sign, hopefully you can see it better now. It crosses at +3 on the y-axis and it shades above. So +3 on the y-axis looks like it could be A, but A is a solid line. This doesn't have a solid line. B crosses at +2. Nope. C crosses at +3, a dashed line, and it shades above. D crosses at +3, has a dashed line, but it shades below. So that wouldn't work. So C is my answer. I'm going to identify 3 points. I'm going to present my calculator screen really quick. Present 3 points that... All right, so identify 3 points that satisfy the inequality. So remember, any points in your shaded region, because it's a dashed line, it would be no points on the line. So what about the point 3, 1? That would work. What about the point 1, 3? That would work. What about the point 5, 0? There's a ton of other points that would work. These are just 3. Remember, because it's a dashed line, nothing on the line is going to work. Only the points in the shaded region. If it's a solid line, the points on the line would work. All right, determine if 0, 3 is a solution to the system. All right, so 0, 3 is right here on the dashed line. Not going to work. No, it is not a solution. Because of dashed line. All right. All right, let me go back and share my other screen. I'm back and forth here. Oops. All right. Function notation, a few more to work on. Function notation, review. So remember, function notation, really, that's just a fancy f of x. That's really just a fancy way of saying y equals. Okay, so if you want to find f of -6, wherever you see x, they're plugging in -6. So -3, so f of -6 equals -3 times x, which they told me to replace it with -6, plus 5. Negative 3 times negative 6 is 18. 18 plus 5 is, what is 18 plus 5? 23. So when x was negative 6, y is 23. You can check yourself on your graphing calculator, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Let me just present my screen here. Oops. All right, if I check myself in my calculator, remember I told you f of x is the same thing as just saying y equals. So if I go here and say y equals negative 3x plus 5, if I go to my little settings wheel, I want to know when x is negative 6. Well, when you go to your settings wheel, I don't see a negative 6. Cross off the negative 2. Negative 6, when x is negative 6, y is 23. And that's exactly what I had here. So always, always check yourself. Why is it not coming up? All right, let's go to this next question. This one says h of x. Remember, h of x is still the same thing, just a fancy way of saying y equals 2x minus 1. That should be an equals. It kind of blurred. Okay, so if you wanted to put it in your calculator, you could. Now they're asking you to find h of negative 1. That means wherever you see x, you plug in negative 1. So 2x, 2 times x, well, x is negative 1 minus 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. So if I checked myself on my calculator when x is negative 1, y is negative 3. And last but not least, we're going to look at it. I believe this is the last one. So I'm given the graph. Well, I'm given a graph below, y equals f of x. Which point can be used to find f of negative 1? Remember, when it's in parentheses like that, that's in place of x. So they're telling you if x is negative 1, what is y? So go to your graph where x is negative 1. Negative 1 is right here. Remember, negative 1 is anywhere up or down. Well, I got to go down to touch, and it looks like I touched right there. And that's, I'm having a hard time seeing, but looks like it's negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Yeah, it looks like it's negative 3. All right, so remember, you had to do all this on notebook paper. If you needed to pause it, go back, whatever the case may be, go ahead and do that, and then you'll upload your work. If you have any questions, let me know.